Hello, welcome to TypeScript Basics. In this part, we are going to look at loops. There are 5 different types of loops in TypeScript. The first one is for loop, and then we have while loop. We also have do while loop, and then we have two other advanced kind of loops. The first one of those is for in, which is basically used to iterate all the keys available in an object. And the next one is for off, which is basically used to loop through all the items available in iterables. For example, array is one of the iterable. We'll cover these in more detail when we look at objects and the different types of iterables. For now, we are just going to look at the first 3 loops. So for loop and while loop are very similar in terms of how it executes. So first it checks a condition, and if that condition is met, it executes the loop block. And then it goes back and checks the condition again, and if the condition is true again, it executes the loop block. So this loop block is basically executed as long as this condition is true, and if this condition is false, it moves on to the next statement, which is after the loop. So this is same for and while loop. This is a little bit different for do while loop. In do while loop, what happens is it executes the loop block first, and then it checks the condition. And if the condition is true, it goes back and executes the loop block. So this loop block is executed as long as the condition is true. And if the condition is false, it moves to the block after the loop. As you can see, the difference here is even if the condition is false the very first time, the loop block will be executed once. This guarantees that the loop block is executed at least once, even if the condition is false. Whereas on the for and while loop block will be executed only when the condition is true. So let's see some example for these now. I have VS Code open here. So let's see how for loop works. So to create for loop, you need to use keyword for, and within parentheses, you need to specify 3 parts of this loop. So in the first part, we need to initialize the loop variable. So I'm going to create a new variable called I. I'm going to assign its value to 0. So this is my loop variable, and this is the initial value for my loop variable. And then I'm going to specify a condition. My condition is I want to run this loop as long as the value of I is less than 10. And then I'm going to specify the third part where I'm going to say I want to increment the value of I for every iteration. So this is my loop, and I'm going to specify the body of the loop. So within this, all I'm going to say is I'm going to say console.log I. So what this is going to do is this is going to print the value of I as long as this condition is true. So because we are incrementing the value of I in every iteration, it will print 0 to 9 and then it will stop. So I'm going to have another statement here just to say after loop, so we know when the loop is completing. So if I run this, you can see here it has printed 0 to 9 and it also printed after loop. That's how loop works actually. And this is very similar for while loop as well. Let me just comment this. I'm going to achieve the same using while loop. So I'm going to say while, and I'm going to say the condition. The condition is I less than 10, but I need to declare this variable first. So I'm going to say let I is equal to 0, and I have initialized it to value 0 as well. And then I'm going to specify the body of the loop here, and here I'm going to print console.log I, and then I'm going to increment the value of I. So if I run this, you'll see the same result. So this is basically while loop achieving the same result we have achieved with for loop. You can see the result here. So let's see do while loop now. So do while loop is basically very similar to while loop. The difference is the body of the loop will be executed at least once always. So to create do while loop, we need to start with do, and then this is the body of the loop, and then we need to specify the condition. So I'm going to say I less than 10. And in the beginning here, I'm going to declare this variable, assign value of 0 to it. And within this, I'm going to say console.log I, and then I'm going to increment the value. So if I run this, you'll see 0 to 10 printed as usual, as you can see here. The difference is if I change the initial value to 10, in the other loops, nothing will be printed. You'll only see after loop statement printed on your console. But with do while, because in do while, the body of the loop will be executed at least once before evaluating the condition. If I run this, you'll see value 10 printed on the console, as you can see this here. Let me show you a couple of keywords that we can use with loops. So the first one is break. So for example, we have this condition here, I is less than 10, But for some special case, if I want to come out of this loop, say when the value is 5, then I can do that using a break statement. So if I say if I is equal to 5, what I want to do is I want to break. So what this will do is it will break out of this loop. So as per this logic, it will run this loop from 0 to 4, and when the value is 5, it will break out of the loop and then it will execute the statement. So basically we are stopping the loop when this condition is met. So let me run this. As you can see, it has printed 0 to 4 because this condition is true. When the value of I is 5, it has come out of the loop. We have another statement which is continue. So if I use continue, what this will do is it will skip that particular iteration. So in this case, when the value is 5, I don't want to run these statements. So it will basically go into infinite loop. If I move the increment operator here as well, then what will happen is when the value is 5, it will increment the value to 6 and then it will skip these statements. This continue basically moves the control back to the beginning of the loop and then it continues from there. So if I run this, we'll see 0 to 9 except 5. As you can see, you don't see 5 because we skipped that iteration basically. We can basically use a break and continue statement with any loop. So that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.